do that. Put on the camera. Good morning, Facebook, or not yet? Tell me when, guys. Give me a countdown. Right now? Good morning, Facebook and social media. Officially, we start with Facebook and social media at about 9:45. Our program starts at 10 o'clock. So Facebook, this is intentional, 10 to 15 minutes of B-roll while we set up and get organized for our community forum. We have a lot of stuff to go through today, so we'll try to be efficient and informative. Let's keep up with the background music. We have a lot of interactive stuff today, so don't get too comfortable in your seat. I'm so sorry. We're going to be up and down like a Catholic service. I need you on your feet sometimes, I need you back down, so get your leg exercises ready. Okay? We with me on that? It's a live broadcast, so we're not going to have much time. You got to get up sometimes and come on back down, all right? All right, I know that's not the most exciting thing to do on a Saturday morning, but it's good for you. 8 minutes to broadcast. Turn your phones on mute. Please put your phone on mute.
There's work for us to do. The push is on. The job is up to you. We can make it a better place to live in right now. Can we count on you? Hey,
everybody. We're broadcasting live at Dr. King's Workshop in the Community Hall, Chicago's Hyde Park neighborhood, 930 East 50th Street. We're live on WVON Radio, 1690 on your dial in Chicago. We're live at WJYS in Chicago, and we're also live internationally on the Word Network, Facebook, and YouTube. But there's nothing like being in here in person with us to celebrate and commune with our community of believers as we bring you our perspective, unadulterated, as we have done every Saturday since 1971. In the tradition of our founder, Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr., let's give him a round of applause. Our mission is to gain, protect, and defend civil and human rights, to level the economic and educational playing fields so that we can all live a better life and serve our communities. Our mission to gain justice for all, self-improvement, personal responsibility. This is a National Rainbow Push Coalition. The push is on. The push is on. The push is on.
The push is on. There's work for us to do. The push is on. The job is up to you. We can make it a better place to live in right now. Can we count on you? Oh, we can make it a better place. We can make it a better place if we only try, only try. We can make it a better place. We can make it a better place if we only try.
Now please join us for a verse of our Black National Anthem. Lift every voice and sing.
Can everyone join me? Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the presence has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
All right. I'm going to change things up. So now you get ready right now. So now come on up here. We have one of our orators from our Push Excel program who's going to start us off with her oration. I usually start us off with some brief announcements. I'm going to do that next. I'm feeling so good. Did you feel good about the Black National Anthem? That just kind of made me feel real good. And I thought that it's appropriate that you come up now and offer us your oration. This is one of our scholars. Give it up for one of our children in our program, Sanaa.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sanaa Payne Stewart, and today I'll be reciting my poem, Beauty Standards. Is it true? Is it right that in order to be pretty, you need to be white? I think society might laugh at me if I might put some makeup on, try to look pretty, try to look nice, because my skin is not as light as those Europeans you see on so many magazines and websites. Maybe they'll say I'm too dark as the night, or too fat because my waist isn't tight. Society is the disease that causes my plight, the disease that makes self-hatred reach new heights. I feel like my head will explode under this pressure despite all those times when people told me it's gonna be all right. But I think that's a lie, that being thinner and paler won't bring me delight. Because whenever I see pictures of models, I feel contrite because I'm not pretty in society's sight. So is it true, is it right, that in order to be pretty, you need to be white? Now that I think about it, not quite. It's true that a subjectivity like beauty is used to smite non-whites, people that the majority deem unsightly, but that's just what it is, isn't it? A subjectivity. So here I am, writing to put up a fight against a system that favors one type. So no, it's not true, it's not right that beauty only lies in being white. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Give her a round of applause. Come on. Thank you, dear, very, very much. It's important that we continue to make space for the young people lives and in our program. We talk about the youth being the future, but then we don't give them any time. Don't give them any space, any prime time. We have a lot to do today. Okay, so let me start with just what we have going on today. We have a couple wonderful guests as we connect the diaspora of the Rainbow Push Coalition movement. We have Grace Chan McKibben. She's Executive Director for the Coalition of a Better Chinese American Community. She's going to give us the immigration perspective from the Chinese American perspective. Let's give her a round of applause. We have our very own Mariana Siropoulos, clerk of the Circuit Court of Cook County. Let's give her a round of applause. We were here when she was running. She has run and she has won. She continues to come back and give thanks and give perspective. We thank you for this partnership. So often these partnerships start and they have an unnatural conclusion. You've kept this partnership going. You hear when we ask you, and we thank you for continuing to hold yourself accountable to this community and to Cook County. Let's give her a round of applause in a special way. Give it up. Reverend Dr. Stevens is going to give us her keynote from Trinity UCC. Let's give Reverend Stevens a round of applause. She continues our Women's Day programming. And we're doing 2 or 3 things at once because time is short. We have Brother Olivier Kamanzi coming on to talk about the war in the Congo. It is important that we not lose sight of our origin story. And there's a lot of pain going on that continent. As Reverend Jackson worked to change the nomenclature we use about ourselves from black and Negro to African American, he said, what gives you power in this country is the country you came from. We see that with our Jewish brothers and sisters in their relationship to Israel. We see it with our Irish brothers and sisters with their relationship to Ireland, and on and on and on and on and on. We are African Americans. And so Congo's situation can only be resolved by the strength of African American participation. Apartheid rolled out of South Africa because of the strength of an international movement and the work of the African American community here in the United States of America. So it's important. They're going to start at about 11 or 11:30. So if you have time, please stay for an enthusiastic panel by our brother, Olivier. He has been here through the years. Now, coming up, we have this week, we continue with our think tank, our ministers and faith leaders meeting here at Rainbow Push on every other Thursday. The next meeting is Thursday, March 13th. Mark this in your calendars. Thursday, March 13th. We serve lunch at 11 o'clock. And Brother Van Jones from CNN and other organizations is going to bring us the message on how we participate in this democracy in this country during this time of what appears to be an autocratic takeover. He's going to teach us some new things that we haven't thought about. One of the reasons I don't want to get out here and fight too hard, too early, we always have to stand up. But they've been working on this for like 15, 20, 30 years. And we have to also steel ourselves with knowledge and understanding so that the fight we have to defend our civil rights is one we can sustain. We can't get out there throwing punches from the hip and we punch ourselves out and don't make it but 2 or 3 rounds. It's a 12 or 15 round fight as we stand up to continue to build on the 60 years of progress we've had in this country. And so Van Jones is going to bring us another piece this coming Thursday of that message. Then we have every other Tuesday, we're blessed to have Reverend Frank Thomas to give us a class, a seminar. It's important that we begin to say the same things. Our messaging must be harmonized so that we're saying the same things from our pulpits every week the same way with respect to this social justice and these encroachments upon our civil rights. So we have Reverend Frank Thomas leading a seminar every Tuesday. You can sign up online or you can come here. It's between 11 and 1. And what he's found is a book called Preaching in Hitler's Shadow. You can soon buy it in our bookstore, Preaching in Hitler's Shadow. Is it in the bookstore already? You can buy that book in the bookstore. Now, that is a text he is teaching from, and it's a selection of sermons because the German preachers had to determine how to preach the gospel during the time of Hitler when he was encroaching upon their civil rights and changing their constitutional democracy to one of an autocracy, of an authoritarian regime. You understand what I'm saying? So we have kind of been here before. There are some parallels. They're not all perfect. But it's a great book, and Reverend Frank is going to teach you how to interpret this from a spiritual and a theological perspective. He does it every other Tuesday. So we are working here. We have lots of things. Next week, we have Sister Kenya Hatch, who's going to give us our keynote address. Let's give the whole Hatch family a round of applause. Boy, the Hatches have a lot of generational talent. God bless them for their work. The Rainbow Push Coalition today is also, I'm going to be real quick, is also in Selma, Alabama. Reverend Jesse Jackson, our founder and president, is in Selma today. Jonathan Jackson is in Selma, and my sister Santita is in Selma. I just want to give a little bit of history. We think about the Bloody Sunday and the Selma March. It's interesting because at that time, Reverend Jackson was a student at Chicago Theological Seminary, 1965. I want to break this timeline down so you understand. I hear some background noise. Someone is watching a video, and you got to stop. Please. Pretty please. It's not respectful to the rest of us. Turn your volumes down or your phones off. Reverend Jackson was a student with a pregnant wife. My brother Jesse Jackson Jr. was born 1965, March 17th. What's the Bloody Sunday date? March 7th. March 7th is Bloody Sunday. Now don't forget, a month before that, there was a brutal murder in Selma. All the while, there had been agitation in Selma as African Americans and the church tried to develop strategies to enforce the right to vote. So there was agitation for months, for years. And what that culminated in was in Reverend James Bevel going down to Selma and other folks going down to Selma to help work with the folks already on the ground, like Miss Boynton, for example, on the ground, already working through the churches, through the networks, through their organizations to seek the right to vote, to get the governor's attention to enforce the right for African Americans to vote. At the same time, my mother and father were in Chicago, at Chicago Theological Seminary. But this is just the backdrop of what was happening. And so there were various attempts to get the governor's attention. And each time they ended up in a bloodbath. either by the state police, the local police, or the KKK militia. So in February, when we had loss, we determined to march on March 7th from Selma to Montgomery. And that's the march where John Lewis came across that bridge and was brutalized. And that night, after they weren't able to make it past the Edmund Pettus Bridge, which is in Selma, by the way. They didn't make it anywhere near to the state capitol to see the governor. That's just in Selma. They got beat up on that bridge, right? That was what they called Bloody Sunday. So then March 9th, Dr. King comes for a follow-up march. That's 2 days later. You with me? Now, all around the country, just like when George Floyd got killed, we're watching. We're agitated. We're organizing buses to go down and support. We're trying to be of service. Reverend Jesse L. Jackson and his wife are in seminary saying, hey, as seminarians to be, what can we do? We want to go down there and be there with them. We want to be of service. We want to put our bodies on the line. So my father did what a good young seminarian would do, and he went to the president of the university. That's not easy to do, to go and get a meeting with the president of the university. He said, hey, Mr. President, we want to go down and support the marches, and we think it should be part of our curriculum. This is like ministry in action. This is what Jesus called us to do. This is what Paul did. This is what we do. And he said, the best thing for you to do is stay in school. And Reverend Jesse Jackson and a group of young seminarians didn't listen to the president of Chicago Theological Seminary, and they drove down to participate without a hotel place to stay. They drove down on faith in their beat-up car, left his pregnant wife, who was due to have a baby March 17th. So when Reverend Jackson got down there, Dr. King and the crew were on the ground working in churches, working with organizations, strategizing. How do we get from Selma to Montgomery without getting killed? When you're leading a movement and one of your volunteers or soldiers gets killed, that's a tremendous burden on the leader of the movement. They're martyrs today. That's a painful thing that you weren't able to take care of the troops that you organized. And so they were trying to prevent loss of life and loss of limb. And this was against an adversary that clearly did not have the same sense of the value of their lives that we have of our lives. So Reverend Jackson went down with a group of young seminarians, and you've seen some of the videotape. He met Andy Young there, and Andy Young was in front of a church organizing, and Reverend Jackson, boy, God is all through him. God has been through him and used him as a vessel of his peace. He said, Reverend Young, you look tired. I'll take over this post for you. They did not know each other well. So Reverend Jackson made himself available. And then they saw his work ethic and saw his dynamism and said, hey, this is a guy we'd like to work with. And he said, I've been working in this movement for about 5 years myself. So it's connecting the pieces of Chicago, Atlanta, Selma together. And he became of service to Dr. King in that way. Just like any organization, you say, hey, this is a new guy. Where does he fit in our thing? And Dr. King said, I've never seen a guy work quite like that. I think we need to move this movement north and east and other places from the South. And Reverend Jackson was a big part of that movement to move the civil rights movement north. So he is there now for the 6th anniversary of the march, wheeling himself across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And so as you think about the sacrifices we made, and don't forget, on that 21st day of March, after we get to Montgomery and on the way back, Viola Luiso came in from New York. A white woman came to support the marchers, and she got killed by the KKK. So Bloody Sunday is really the beginning of a month of protest movements. And then that's March 1965. Get your history straight. Then in August of 1965, Johnson's able to pass the Voting Rights Act. So we ask ourselves, why do we march for the Voting Rights Act? Why must we not take our vote for granted? Why must we participate in our democracy? Not just voting, but holding our politicians accountable and writing to, I know it's tiring, writing to them, calling to them, participating with them, because of that. Because of that. I think it is fitting for us in this moment to just give me a little bit of background music, just a little bit of something, to think about the sacrifices that have come before us. And as we find ourselves weary or tired, to think about where we fit in the lineage of a young student like Jesse Jackson, who didn't listen to to the president of the university and decided to go anyway with a pregnant wife at home. He was so moved by that movement, by that march, he almost named my brother Jesse Selma. And Jesse said he was so happy his mother was not there, also moved. And she said, no, I don't, I know you down there and it's been tough, but I don't really think we should name him Selma Jackson. There's something funny about me calling Jesse Selma even today. But we've given a lot to be where we are. And it's for that reason, among others, that we can't stop fighting right now. I'm not going to give my recap on what I think happened this week with with our White House, because we don't have a whole lot of time on it, but you're watching. You're watching. Also know that our children are watching too. And that's really, really what's important. But I will say this. I told you what I thought the most dangerous thing for us, they say, what is the impact on the African American community of these firings? Well, if you watch the television, there's a lot of poor white folks being fired too. And what I see there is a coalition opportunity. You got farmers who aren't getting paid. You got a lot of Canadians up. This is an international opportunity if we're prayerful. But if you want to be vengeful and seek revenge, and if you want to think everything's funny and laugh at other people's plight when you might very well be next, well, then you can't build coalition that way. So be mindful of that. But interestingly, the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, was really designed to help minority people, and I don't really love that term, but disadvantaged and disparaged people when their civil rights are threatened. They've changed their mandate now. The EEOC is now mandate is to protect Americans from anti-American bias. The EEOC. My issue with what he's doing is he's dismantling the infrastructure for us to protect our rights long term. All of our lawyers, all of our civil protections are being dismantled under this administration. That's the biggest issue, is that over time, we're not going to have people in organizations and externally who are able to support our civil rights. That's my biggest concern with what we have going on right now. All right. Last week, and I'm going to say this very frankly, we survive because we're able to give you our perspective unadulterated and honest. We're not on a corporate take. Last week, our giving was not up to par. And I'm just going to ask that you please give more generously this week so we can continue the work that we do without having to give in and you see our message changing. Don't put us in that position. So I'm going to ask that you help us participate in a more meaningful way so we can keep doing the work that we're doing. All right, we're going to have a wonderful song by Michelle coming up here, and then Grace, you're going to come up and give us your message, and then we'll keep going, okay? Everybody, let's give Michelle a round of applause. Come on.
will be mountains that I will have to climb, and there will be battles that I won't have to fight, but victory or defeat, it's up to me to decide. But how can I expect to win if I never try? I just can't give up now. Come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me the road would be easy, and I don't believe he's brought me this far to leave me. Never said there wouldn't be trials, never said I wouldn't fall, never said that everything would go the way I thought it would go. But when my back is against the wall and I feel all hope is gone, I'll just lift my head up to the sky and say, help me to be strong. I just can't give up now. I've come too far from where I started from. Oh, nobody told me the road would be easy, and I don't believe he's brought me this far to leave me here. Hey. Oh, I just can't give up now. I've come too far from where I started from. Oh, nobody told me the road would be easy, and I don't believe he's brought me this far to leave me. Bless you.
Michelle, can you keep that going? Can you keep that? I don't believe he's brought me this far to leave me. I don't believe he's brought me this far to leave me. I know what you see. I know what your eyes see. But I don't believe he's brought me this far to just close the door. It's giving time. I'm going to start us off with $100. I have 5 children. And I'm going to give $100 to get us going. Will anybody match my $100 today or beat it? Take this, Pam. You raise your hand if you give us $100. Raise your hand. Raise your hand, raise your hand. Raise your hand. Put my name next to that, please. It comes with a membership. Raise your hand. We need your help. We need your help. Come on, let's get around. I don't believe it. Somebody asked me, they said, credit card works too. Somebody asked me, they said, thank you for this. Thank you for this. They said, what would you do now in this environment? And I was with a group of African American businessmen who said, all you have to do right now is just do good business. You just do good business. I said, I think it's a little more just doing good business, guys. I said, what happens when they qualify for a loan and you don't qualify for the same loan? Or their loan terms are better than your loan terms when you have the same underwriting? how can you compete when you're at 8% and they're at 3%? It's a little different than just doing your best when you're dealing with an unequal society, right? So I said, you need to join a civil rights organization. A civil rights organization is designed for moments like these. If you'll give $50 or more, raise your hand. If you give $50 or more, raise your hand. Come on, come on, come on, come on. We're on there, $50 or more. Raise your hand, let's go. Don't miss anybody. Keep your hands up, please. $25 or more. $25 or more. Come on. Come on, Pam. Alvin, help us out. If you'll give something, raise your hand. If you'll join the organization today, get yourself a pen, raise your hand. Keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. Now, come on. Come on, let's get around. All right, we're going to get one more verse step. We're going to bring up Grace. No ways tired. Come on.
I've come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me the road would be easy, and I don't believe He's brought me this far to leave me.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me today. I ran into Reverend Jeanette Wilson a couple of days ago, and she's like, "What are you doing on Saturday at 10?" And she invited me. So I want to share with you, and I'm really grateful for Reverend Yusuf for talking about history, right? How we are all connected today as well as throughout history. So I want to talk a little bit about my organization, what we're currently doing, particularly in the current environment where the White House is pushing out all these executive orders against immigrants, against LGBTQ folks, against everyone that is not his inner circle. And we're really, in this moment, really need to all work together to fight against dismantling of our government, of our democracy, or else we don't have, people keep saying, oh, we'll wait for 4 more years, or we'll wait to vote them out. We may not have a system, or we may not have an opportunity to vote ever again. So we cannot stand by and let this happen to us. So a little bit about my organization. I'm the executive director of Coalition for a Better Chinese American Community, which is a mouthful. Even the acronym is difficult to remember. It's CBCAC. I have a bunch of young 20-something staff, and they often joke about, whenever we have community meetings, we should set out a table of A, B's, and C's and let people arrange them and see if they can get the order right. And people usually don't. Yeah, they're like, Grace Chan McKibben, she works for that organization, C something or another. But anyway, CBCAC, Coalition for a Better Chinese American Community. We started in 1998, and the mission or the impetus for starting the coalition by our founder, Mr. C.W. Chan, no relation, although he played guitar with my uncle in college. But he had been a business leader, and he had also been one of the founders of Chinese American Service League, a large social service agency. In 1998, the casino buses were coming to our community, picking up seniors day and night and blocking the streets and getting folks who can least afford to lose money to go spend their money all day in the Indiana casinos. So Mr. Chan gathered up all the social service agencies as well as the business community, and we all know that social service agencies and business organizations don't always work together because there are different priorities, but on this issue, they worked together and they pushed back against the casino buses and were able to limit the number of rides, were able to limit where they can pick up and when they can pick up and drop off. So it was an early win, and since 1998, we have been working on engaging the community in more civic ways. from everything from advocating for the new Chinatown Library. You see this beautiful library on Wentworth that is the work of our organization, as well as advocating for the field house. Now, the field house has a racist past, too. In the 1960s, when the Dan Ryan came in and the I-55 came in, there were there was a vibrant park and field house that was taken away, and it took the residents decades to fight to get back a field house in the park. At that time, the government was like, "Oh, don't worry, we'll take away this park, but we'll give you another park." But it turned out to take decades of work. So do not take anything for granted, and work does continue. So most recently, with the executive orders, we had a couple of things that are going on. How many of you know that there were actually more Chinese citizens that crossed the border in 2023 and 2024 than most other countries? It was the country with the second largest number of people coming, and people were not coming, to tour the U.S. and see what it is like. It's really folks that were not able either to work where they are, or they felt that the government was being oppressive and they wanted to find a better life. And this is no different than when the very first Chinese Americans came to the U.S. The very first Chinese Americans came in the mid-80s, in the mid-1800s, 80s, 2 decades ago, in the mid-1800s to look for work. And they didn't willingly come. It's usually some deception. Some companies said, you're going to make a lot of money working in the gold mines first, and later railroads. So many of the workers on the Transcontinental Railroad were Chinese Americans, and they were preferred because they were a little bit smaller, and they generally were the people that were told to go inside tiny little spaces, put in dynamite, and come back out as quickly as you can. Many of them were not able to come out. And so we're building on this legacy of people that were brave, people that are resilient, and that's why we're working very hard to reject some of the executive orders that the president had issued. One, he had issued that he was going to end birthright citizenship, which means that people that are born in the U.S., if their parents were not already permanent residents, he was going to not let them be citizens. The very first case of birthright citizenship that was won was a Chinese American in 1898. This man, Mr. Wang Kim-ark, was born in the U.S., went back to China, and for business or whatever, he came back and was denied entry in California and San Francisco, and he sued. And that was the very first case of the United States recognizing that if somebody was born in the U.S., they do have the right to be citizens. So we're building upon all this history, and then most recently, there was a declaration that English would be the only official language of the United States. We have never, in the 250 years of this country, ever had an official language. Why? Because we have people coming from all over the world continuously, all the time. In Illinois alone, we have about 7% of people that speak a language other than English at home. And it's not just Spanish. It's Chinese, it's Arabic, it's Polish, it's Hindi, Urdu, and on and on, German, French. So we need to push back against this idea that only certain people are Americans. Only certain people are Americans. Look around this room. Look at me. When people see Asian Americans, they tend to think that we are all foreigners. They all think that, I just came from China yesterday, not realizing that there have been Asian Americans in this country, as I said, the Chinese Americans since the mid-1800s, and then Filipino Americans. The first Filipino community in the U.S. started in 1760. a bunch of Filipino sailors landed in New Orleans and decided to call that community home. So when you look at people need to understand everybody's individual history and individual culture, and then there's really a lot of need to work together. We work together with our Latino brothers and sisters on immigration rights, right even before the new administration, back in December. As we prepare for the new administration, we were talking to the immigrant rights organizations about getting trained on Know Your Rights so that we can share that information as quickly as possible. Once the new administration is in, we have set up a rapid response team to spot any ICE action and to protect our communities, both the Chinese community and other immigrant communities. And I invite you all to join in this fight against authoritarianism, against thinking that only certain people have rights and other people have not, and that we are in this fight together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Listen, let me give her another round of applause. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you how you know Grace Chan is a sister. First of all, when you think about this, we're not alone. Only by looking at the world myopically do we think we're alone. There's a tremendous history of Chinese American discrimination in this country, and it's a brutal reality. And we have a lot more allies in this struggle for self-determination in the United States than we think we have if we kind of get over yourself a little bit. Just get over yourself a little bit. Open, expand. God will give you as far as you can see. So you have to broaden your perspective. I knew she was a sister when I was told, they said, Yusuf, the alderman from Chinatown's coming to speak on Saturday morning. I said, okay, I love it. And then I got here and realized that Grace Chan was not exactly the alderman from Chinatown. It was kind of like, when brothers call each other doctors and sisters and reverends and stuff. She's like Sister Grace. She's not exactly the alderman, but she has something to say. Let's give Grace another round of applause. Open your hearts and open your hands for Mariana Siropoulos. She is our clerk of the circuit court. She is important. She's going to come again. I met her through Chris Hodges, a major brother, probably a year into your race, or a year before your race, and she is growing to be a sister in our movement and our struggle. Mariana, thank you for coming back again, and come on and give us your state of the state. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mariana Siropoulos. It rhymes with metropolis. Really easy Greek name. And as a daughter of immigrants, I appreciate all the hard work that Grace's organization does, that Push does, and basically, it's serving humanity is what we're doing, right? Even as government agencies. I was recently elected as clerk of the Circuit Court of Cook County, and I'm grateful for the support of Reverend Jackson, who had faith and confidence in my message, which was to make this office more accessible, to make this office transparent as a government agency. We often say, as elected officials, we want to be accountable, we want to be transparent, but what are we doing to make that happen? So the clerk of the circuit court is the record keeper of the court system. We like to say that we are the front door to the justice system. We're not the judge, we're not the jury, we're not the attorneys, but we keep the record of what happened in that courtroom. And if we weren't there, just think what would happen. You would have the judge and the attorneys arguing about what happened, but no one is the independent keeper of that. We don't have a stake in what happens in the courtroom, so I think that we are basically the impartial party in all of that. We've got a lot of different services at the agency, and I know that I don't have too much time, but I wanted to give a brief overview. Also, I have two superstars from my office that are here today. Meredith Hammer is part of our legal department. And Robert Jones is part of our criminal division. And they will be staying afterwards to answer any questions. We also have a lot of documentation. So anything that regarding divorce, regarding civil orders of protection, expungement and sealing. We were just talking to the Reverend this morning about possibly doing a law day where we would partner and we would provide services to answer questions, help people fill out forms of any kind. Hopefully you don't need us. But if you do, and you know someone that does, in an ideal world, you don't need to ever deal with us at all. That would be great. Put us out of business, right? But until we get there, there are going to be evictions that take place. We help with that. There are guardianships. There are wills that you have to go through. We're talking about possibly being a will depository. If you know people that write a will, sometimes they leave it with an attorney or it gets lost. We want to be the depository for that, and we're working on that right now. We're working on expungements. We're going to have an expungement expo. We are working on getting people their driver's license back. If you get several DUIs and you get your driver's license taken away, we're working with the Secretary of State to help people get their driver's license back. So there's so many different services that we have. And you can find out more at cookcountyclerkofcourt.org. That is Cook County clerkofcourt.org. I know it's a mouthful. I inherited the website name. But we're working on streamlining this office, making our website more accessible, like I said, orders of protection, wills, a myriad of services, and it's all to basically help people. That's what government is, that's what government should be, and that's what we're going to continue to do. So thank you so much for your time today. Like I said, we'll leave forms, and we've got our staff here to answer questions, and we'll be back. Thank you, and have a great day.
Let's give her another round of applause for being informative, organized, and brief. I mean, you don't see politicians give you the microphone. I know you can't, but you're disciplined, which is what I love. Many of the things we love about you. But what we really love in all seriousness is your faithfulness. You've been faithful to us. We appreciate you very, very much. Let's give her another round of applause. Now we have Sister Stevens from Trinity. Let me tell you, she is dynamic. She's exciting. What did I do wrong? I mean, I've seen you. I know you can do it. I can give you this microphone just right over there, and she can give you the story. She's going to come to us. Let me read some of these things, though, just so I can give you a little better than just saying she's a sister. She's educated. She's got degrees from Chicago State, Morgan State, and McCormick Theological Seminary. She is a Emmy-nominated associate producer for a show called Different Drummers. So she's creative. So she has tentacles in the creative sphere as well as the spiritual sphere. And she has made herself, most importantly, available to us in our community. She just isn't out there charging you for her work. She's coming to bring it back to you right here at the People's Organization. She led us through a dynamic prayer on King Day, and I thank you so much for that beautiful prayer. We're still being blessed by the words you gave that very, very day. So she comes to bring us today our keynote address as we continue with our Women's Day, Women's Month programming on our second Saturday. Good Reverend Dr. Stevens, please come on up. Thank you so much. Can I give you a hug?
Good morning. Oh my. This is a beautiful occasion for me. I want to first give praise and honor to God for this opportunity. And I also want to take the time just to say thank you to our moderator, Yusuf Jackson. It's been a pleasure to see him step into this role of leadership and to just take it on. He comes from a lineage of leaders. Amen. but to actually be in a place where you're making the decisions and welcoming that role of stepping into those steps, I think is a wonderful and beautiful thing. I also want to acknowledge our founder, the Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. Y'all make some noise for him. Let me take this down. For his incredible leadership throughout the years and just being a man of integrity to stand up for what is right, to speak up and to use his body as needed, his wisdom, and the partner of his life, Mrs. Jacqueline Jackson. Let's celebrate her, our queen, who embraces us all as her children, and I am grateful for that. I want to just take a couple of minutes before I get started. I'm going to give you a text, and then we're going to dive into this very big topic of faith, freedom, and feminism. I have one other person that I want to also salute and celebrate, and that is the Reverend Jeanette Wilson. We thank God for her. She has a way of pushing you even when you don't feel like moving. Amen. I see my family is here. I'm so grateful for you all being here this morning. You flew in from Georgia, I think, maybe. Wow. Thank you all. Thank God for them. I want to talk a little bit about this topic, faith, freedom, and feminism, but I'm going to use a text that may not necessarily correlate with this topic, so I'll just ask for your patience as we dive into this very tough issues, more than one, faith, freedom, and feminism. And so while I was praying about this, the Lord gave me this thought, a time to dance. Stay with me. So in Exodus 15 and 20, I'm going to read a text for you, but I also want to acknowledge the Reverend Dr. Otis Moss III, who is our pastor at Trinity United Church of Christ. I see some Trinitarians here. Love you guys. And I also see some family from Apostolic Church of God. Thank you for being here too. Wow. In Exodus chapter 15, verse 20, it says, then Miriam, the prophet, Aaron's sister, took a tambourine and led all the women as they played their tambourines and danced. Now, when you think about faith, dance correlates with faith. When you think about freedom, dance correlates with freedom. And when you think about feminism, we see Miriam at the forefront as a leader of worship, as a protector of her brother, Moses, and we see her also as a prophetic voice. And I believe if we're going to move forward together as a people, we have to have a mindset and the ear for a prophetic voice. I'm going to lift up a few prophetic voices as we talk about this. One being especially the Reverend Jesse Jackson. In times where people did not have equality, in times where the tables were turned against Black people and immigrants and minorities, to have the voice to speak up and to strive to make a difference. We honor him. As we look at this subject, it reminds me that our fight for liberation and justice and equality continues. It was a dire need in the generations before us, and it is still a need today. Today, we still have a president who is endangering us with unjust policies and unjust regulations and intimidating executive orders and tactics of fear and bullying. But we have a God who is still in control. There is still a fight to protect women from violence. Statistics say 1 in 5 women and girls have suffered sexual violence during crises. And we have to fight to give us back our right to choose what to do with our bodies. reproductive rights is still a very present issue that affects minority women at an alarming rate. Healthcare is still unaffordable for many people. Equalizing the wage gap is still an issue for women, and we need to have the ability to earn what our male counterparts are earning in the corporate world. Women and girls of ethnic minorities face multiple forms of oppression, which reduces their power, their self-esteem, and even their choices. They are at increased risk for violence and face barriers to access support. And we still have to have an advocate for women in leadership. Our voices, women, must be heard to implement laws and policies and to apply temporary special measures that will increase the number of women in decision-making positions in this world. Not just in politics, not just in business, not just in science, not just in the church, but in the world. We still have a fight where we are trying to help those who have experienced poverty. And so how do we address these kinds of issues and needs? Let's take a look at what we've learned from history. Some leaders believe that women are inadequately prepared to lead. They think that they can't lead corporations, churches, black clubs, and even the nation. But if you ask Valerie Daniels Carter, owner of an NBA company, the Milwaukee Bucks, she would tell you something different. If we could sit down with Vice President Kamala Harris, she would tell us that education and speaking up and doing the right thing will lead to a better future. I wish that I could sit with the Dr. Katherine Jackson, who without her mathematical skills, America would still be left behind when it comes to aerospace sciences and space travel. We thank God for the hidden figures, the human calculators, the women who did not need calculators to figure out solutions to mathematical and aeronautic problems. We thank God for people like the Dr. Mae Jemison, who said they said we couldn't go to the moon, but she taught us how to fly high. And so when they say that something can't be done, I believe that our challenge today as we're learning to dance is to do it anyway. There are statistics about education. 71.5% of black women who attend college earn master's degrees. It is our job to make sure that all children are able to have equal education. Access to education is what helps to build the community and the family. And if we are starting at a disadvantage when it comes to preschool and kindergarten, we are already left behind. Together, we have to work to get rid of the prison pipeline, amen, that starts from kindergarten and moves throughout high school. We have to do our job to prepare our young people to have increased bright mind, to inspire their creativity, to motivate their self-esteem, to give them a quest for knowledge, to learn about what they can do and not what they cannot do. And in these times, it is important for us to start giving them the power to break the oppression that they are experiencing. And in the words of Diane Carroll, she said something like this: sometimes you have to break the rules to get what you need. Miriam, the protector, we know her as Moses' older sister. She reminds us that we can do something about the times in which we are living in. We can be those who mourn, or we can be those who move. We can rise in the face of adversity, or we can sit on the sidelines bound by intimidation and fear. In Exodus 2, when Pharaoh made an order to kill every Hebrew baby boy that was born, there were 2 midwives who refused to follow that order. They feared God. Let's start there. When we fear God and when we trust in God, we are moved and motivated to do something. Hallelujah. To make a change in this world. They were resistant to the impression, and they claimed that the Hebrew women were so strong that they were going to have the children before they arrived. Without these women, Moses would not have been born. And although they played a small but significant role in history, they were instrumental in the story of Moses, who would later be called the great deliverer. I believe that God is not a respecter of persons. That means that I can do something to make a difference in this world, and so can you. I believe that it doesn't matter your age or even your gender, but God can use you to collaborate, to organize, to strategize, to work together to make a difference in this world. And so here, after Moses is born, Miriam watches over her baby brother as he is placed in a basket by his mom, Jochebed, that travels down the Nile River, where Pharaoh's daughter finds him crying and has compassion for him. When he is discovered, Miriam springs into action and asks the question, shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you? See, God's plan is always in motion. Miriam's job was to watch over her brother, and she did that. And we must do the same today. We must protect our children. We must protect our neighborhoods. We must protect our civil rights. We must protect those that we love. We must protect the immigrants. Hallelujah. We must protect those who are considered disenfranchised and marginalized, because I believe that Jesus came into this world to save us all. We must be intentional in our demands for equal educational rights, keeping Black history in schools, making sure our youth are not falling behind in reading skills, requiring them to read more and to put down the game controllers and television. Turn it off. We have to expect them to read so that they can know about the royal heritage of kings and queens that have come throughout the years. What do I mean? Makeda, Queen of Sheba from the 10th century in Ethiopia. Nandi of Zulu Kingdom and Zulu Nation of the 18th century. And then there is Queen Candace, who is mentioned also in the Bible that interacts with Philip. They need to know that there is a rich heritage, that history did not just begin when America began, but there were centuries before where people were leaders, especially Black leaders, were in community making decisions and raising crops and building community. And that legacy must continue. I want to take a little poetic license here as we look at the life of Miriam and say it reminds me of the freedom movement and how freedom was the mission, and without faith there was no motivation in this movement, and how faith was the heartbeat of the movement, but love was the ethic. We need love. We cannot continue to turn on one another without embracing one another. If we want things to change, love must be the ethic. Equality with respect as human beings is a need. It is the cry for today, that I can't sleep at night when my brothers and sisters have nowhere to sleep, that I can't sleep at night when my brothers and sisters have no food to eat, that I can't sleep at night when my brothers and sisters are terrorized by people because they don't look the way that others look. I believe the time is now for this dance of equality, and if we're going to make the world better for the next generation, we've got to look at the inspiration from Scripture and from those who have come before us so that we can be inspired to do something about it. Let's dive into faith. Faith, the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Faith, it means that you have to do something. Faith lets us know that we don't just sit by and just allow the enemies of justice and love and equality to banter and beat us up, but we rise up and we stand up and we speak truth to power and we tell them our demands of what we need in our communities and how we want our children to have equal access and how we want our families to be able to be in position to prosper and how we want to see a difference in this world. Faith then allows us to put action. I call it, we put feet to faith. In other words, if we say that we're going to do something, we do it. In other words, if we're believing God for the change that we want to see, then guess what? That means we got to come in at 9:30 a.m. and sit in the Saturday morning forum and have breakfast and talk about on panels and in discussions and sign up people to vote and ask people to be present in their lives. It means that until we see justice rolling down like water and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream, we do not stop. We don't allow for people to tell us that we can't make things different. I'm reminded of Howard Thurman, who spoke about Jesus, and he said that Jesus embodied a love ethic that is central to conquering the hounds of fear, hypocrisy, and hatred. And if we are determined to eliminate those enemies of injustice, fear, hypocrisy, and hatred, then not only do we have to pray and have faith, but we've got to do something. In other words, faith as engagement in the diverse dimensions of spiritual life, it is usually through moral, formal religious communities and practices that we understand faith, but also through other centers of meaning. The Bible lets us know that if I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. So rooted in our outreach is love. Rooted in our talking to our neighbors is love. Rooted in sharing to other people to sign up and register to vote is love. And rooted in feeding our neighbors is love. And rooted in advocating and marching is love. We must have love if we're going to continue to move forward as a community. And God is telling us to do what it requires, to go against the grain or the norm, to go against the fear that exists so that we can possess what it is that God has promised us. Statistics say that in 2023, women working full-time year-round made 82.7 cents per dollar. They earned per dollar earned by men. There's a wage gap of 17.3%, a significant worsening of the earnings ratio compared to 84 cents per dollar. We've got work to do. And if we're going to talk about faith, then we have to look at what was done by the leaders before us who made these type of opportunities that we enjoy today and are under attack today. And we got to take a look at them and strategize so that we can achieve and take back what the enemy tries to take. I'm reminded of Mahalia Jackson and Thomas Dorsey, the father of gospel music, and how they created this sound of gospel to tell the good news and the story of who Jesus was and is. And Mahalia singing across the nation and raising money in the movement, the freedom movement, so that there would be the ability to go and eat and speak at these various platforms. But the thing about Mahalia Jackson that I love to tell is that she was unwavering in her faith. She was undaunted and unintimidated by what others were singing. And she was undaunted and unintimidated by how people perceived her. It was her goal to sing the gospel. And what a joy it was to sing the gospel. Yes, it was a new song, but it was the song that needed to be sang to inspire a generation of leaders and followers who needed to make change. And when she came together with Mr. Thomas Dorsey and they sang the song that changed the world, they were able to, in that moment, when Dr. King was getting ready to give his I Have a Dream speech, Miss Mahalia was able to say, tell him about the dream. What are your dreams for your children, for your future, for this world? I want to encourage you to remember the dream. To let the dream echo in your heart. Let it ring in your spirit. Let it bellow in your ear so that you are mindful that it does not end today. That no matter how much horror people may try to bring your way, hold on to the dream. I'm reminded as I continue to talk about this faith, this faith that changes and moves mountains, this faith that brings about truth, this faith that inspires Sojourner Truth, this faith that kept the people in march and in step, this faith that reminds us that all things are possible through God. Miriam, the prophet, the text says she was a prophet. And I believe we have some modern day prophets. Just look around. But if you're in leadership, in a leadership role, and you're at a table and you don't see any women, that's a problem. We got to make some changes because I believe that there are some modern day Miriams who need to be in the boardrooms and the classrooms to help make these changes. An all male team is a team with a deficit. We need to add some more women to those teams. And I believe that faith is an engagement in the diverse dimensions of spiritual life, usually through formal religious communities and practices. But faith must be active. Faith must be moving. Faith must be in motion. Faith must inspire. Faith must motivate you. And I believe that today, as we are looking at faith and freedom, that they're going hand in hand because it's going to take faith to get us beyond the fear that we are experiencing and the anxiety that we are experiencing in these times. So I'm reminded of women of faith who also inspired us today. I'm reminded of Mother Consuelo York, who took the time to sit with those who were incarcerated and pray with them. I'm reminded of Amanda Berry Smith, a powerful preaching woman who would speak against the enemies of our faith. I'm reminded of a Mary Church Terrell, who motivated us to do something and to speak up and to be different. And I'm reminded of a Diane Nash, a Dr. Diane Nash, who was oftentimes just perused and looked over, but who played a significant role in the SNCC community. We praise God for their lives. And today I want to challenge us to continue to have black joy and to dance. What do you mean? Miriam dance. Our dance is a form of resistance. Our dance is a form of resilience. Our dance says that we are still here and we are not giving up. Our dance says we have purpose, just like Miriam. Our dance says we will still celebrate what God is doing in these times, even though they feel terrible. Our dance reminds us that we still have a heartbeat and we still have the ability to move and we still have the activities of our limbs. And so it is a metaphor for actually moving and doing things, but it is very appropriate today because if we're going to be the kind of people who prepares a better world for our children and our children's children, we have to do like Miriam did and learn to celebrate God and to dance. Before I take my seat, I just want to share one thing, and that is about feminism and how we define feminism as a view of the world that is grounded in women's experiences. And it is committed to building justice for women, enhancing their agency, that is, their ability to affect change, and enriching the larger society with their perspectives and contributions. When you look at the life of Miriam, we come to know her as a prophet. Within the patriarchal societal norms, Miriam is celebrated as a leader. Miriam is celebrated as one who had the voice of God. Miriam is celebrated as the one who could bring people together. And women and ladies today, that is our job. If we're going to learn anything from the life of Miriam, is that not only are we empowered to usher and serve, but to usher the next generation into a life of freedom and equality and justice. And Miriam begins to dance. She beckons the women to join her with a tambourine and beginning to dance. She leads the celebration after crossing the Red Sea and the drowning of Pharaoh and his army. And I would even go as far as to say that Miriam had some black joy, that she was excited that the victory that God did for her was for the whole community. And so if we are going to continue to experience victories, even though times are dire and things look like there will be no differences made, I invite you to learn how to dance, because one of the things that we learned from the freedom movement is that they remained in step. They moved as one. They marched together. They walked on one accord. And if we are going to bring about a change and a difference in this world, that is what we have to do. We have to learn how to dance, how to move in step, how to march, how to walk, how to speak up, how to be living vessels, how to be living testimonies, how to be examples of God's goodness and God's grace. We are the vessels. We are the ones with the power. We are the ones with the influence. We are the ones with the gifts. We are the ones with the voices. I don't know who can sing, but sing. I want to encourage you not only to be in step, but to sing while you're in step. And we know that Miriam, as a leader, with her prophetic dance, her rhythmic movement, her bodily expression, she beckoned everyone to join with her. And today I do the same thing. Let us stand together in unity. Let us fight for justice. Let us stand together for equality. Let us in this dance be led by the Holy Spirit to know who to talk to, how to negotiate, how to collaborate, how to bring people together, when to pray and what to pray, and how to be demanding for the things that we want to see done in this world. So before I take up my seat, I want to remind you to take up your tambourines and dance. Advance in education and dance. Advance in the corporate relationships and dance. Advance in your education, dance. Dance in your communities. Dance in your family. No more complacency and no more conveniency. Boycott where it's necessary. Tell Target goodbye. Amen. Do what you need to do so that together we can advance as a community. It's time for a prophetic dance. It's time for a dance together. It is time for the men and the women who are seeking justice to come together and to fight. It's time for our daughters to be present and our daughters to speak up and our families to be protected. It is time for the economic gains to come forth. It is time for people to be treated as human beings with dignity and righteousness. It is time for the prophetic dance. Hallelujah. Because when we dance, we know things change. Before I take my seat, I want to say one last thing. And that is, I want to go back to 2018 when the Marvel movie Black Panther was released. we were introduced to a world where Queen Ramonda, played by the phenomenal Angela Bassett, sparks a fight. She sparks some fights in her son, T'Challa. In this fight, during this battle, to find out who would be the Black Panther, she does one thing. She screams, "Tell him who you are." And in the middle of the fighting, T'Challa begins to get some strength. He begins to fight back, and he rises and wins the title as Black Panther. People of God, let's show the world who we are. Let's tell them who we are. Let them know that God is good and God is going to use us for the change that we want to see. Let's remember those who've come before us. Let's remember those who have fought for us, and let's continue this fight for justice. I want to tell you before I go, don't forget to dance and tell them who you are. God bless you.
Did I tell you? Did I tell you? Give it up again. Give it to her. I never saw Miriam in that way. And I'll tell you, Reverend LaShondra, she gave that with heels on. I'm not, if you see her in flats, keep that up, but lower it down a little bit for me, Ralph. Let me just offer, so our program is concluding. We have a big week next week. Again, let me just remind you, we've got Reverend Frank Thomas come on the 18th. That's not next week. Is that next week? That's week after. With our Preaching in Hitler's Shadow. Sign up for that online. Make sure that link works, everybody, at Rainbow Push. Next week, we have Kenya Hatch speaking here at the organization. We also have our ministers' think tank, Faith Leaders Think Tank. That's on Thursday from 11 to 1. Join online or join in person. All right? So we have a lot of work to do. We are mobilizing and we are organizing right now. If you say, what are you doing in this moment? Coming here is a big part of it. Don't underestimate the value of you being here. Be patient with yourself. You don't quite know enough to jump in the ring with Mike Tyson. I know he looks short, and he might even look old. You don't quite know enough. I just hate to break it to you. The guy's a good fighter, and he got a lot of power, and we have to continue to steel ourselves and to learn and to continue to hear the word and the message, both on Sundays and on Saturdays. And that's what we're doing here. If you look around you, I know it's stiff for some of y'all, but look around you right now. Please, 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 everybody, stop and look around. There are people here who you do not know. And one of the values of being together is that you meet people who you don't know. So if you're coming here once, twice, or every Saturday, and you're not meeting new people, and you're not managing to send them a text, you're not managing to have a cup of coffee or go out to dinner or lunch, then you're not doing the movement justice. You're not doing yourself justice. Meet somebody here you do not know. Learn from somebody. Share with somebody. Share the blessing of yourself with them. You hear me? You have to meet people while you're here. That's why we're here. That's why we're gathered, not just online, but in person, because you're meeting people. I want to thank you for what we've learned today from our presenters and our speakers. Give them a round of applause. Did you learn today? Did you learn today? Next week when you come back, you need to be wearing your Rainbow Push pin. It means something. It means that when you walk into the grocery store, when you walk on an airplane, when you walk in your neighborhoods, you're part of a bigger group. You have a level of protection. You have a shroud. You have a big sister in Miriam. You got somebody dancing for you. You got somebody playing the tambourine for you. You got somebody to call when you got a problem. Some of us don't report crimes against us because we don't believe we have any advocates. And there's a chance you don't, because you've not taken time to develop the advocates. And that's what you have to do. You have not time. You've got to put away your grain for the dry season that may be coming before you understand. So let's make sure that we're fortifying ourselves every week with the work we're doing. And thank you, Reverend, for mentioning being here at 9:30 Saturday Morning Works. And we're going to leave some Saturdays and go do some direct action at that federal building and let them hear our voices in a different kind of way. So we're going to be here. Right now we're just organizing. We're just gathering. My Reverend Jackson father would say we're just people united to serve humanity, but we're organizing and developing an army of faith leaders as servants of the gospel, as we were taught. And that was brought to us by Dr. King and others. And that's why we're here, because we know how to protect ourselves, and we have to be prepared to do it. I would ask that Reverend Jeanette Wilson, lead us in our prayer for the week. And then right after you leave here, we're going to transition to the panel learning about the war in the Congo. That's really, really important. The diaspora of our struggle. We're an international people, and we're going to learn about what's going on. So I want to thank Dr. Olivier for coming in today. Thank you so much. You've always been faithful. But Reverend Jeanette, would you give us a prayer, please? Let's give Reverend Jeanette Wilson. She's about the only person that can hit me in the back of the head. My mother doesn't hit me in the back of the head. It's only you. And I'm thinking,
don't believe what he said. Give Yusef Jackson a round of applause. And I'm going to pray, but before I pray, he is our hardest working volunteer. And I want y'all to know he's a volunteer, which is a model for those of you who come on Saturday. You too can volunteer. We need your support. Shall we stand and bow our heads? If you want to volunteer, see me after this program. Our Father and our God, we pause to say thank you. Thank you for the vision of our founders, Reverend Jackson and countless other faith leaders, business leaders, educators who came together to found this organization. We thank you for the vision. We thank you for the work across the years, from 1966 to now. God, we thank you for how you blessed us. And even as we gather today with new people, younger people, new faces, we ask that you give all of us your blessing. Give us traveling mercies as we leave this place and go to our several destinations. We thank you for those who come to challenge our hearts about the Congo. We ask that you give us the information and then give us the inspiration to do something. We thank you for everyone that's participated. We ask that you will bless each family represented in this collective. And let every heart say, amen.
amen. Thank you. Well, welcome. Thank you very much. Brother Olivier.